The camera is not gonna magically change what I'm capable of. 5K 3x2 open gate, the same 16-bit internal RAW of the 25K Burano. Eurovision 2026 shot on 24 ARRI Alexa 35 live cameras. That's insane. Look, I can understand why you would be into it. It's essentially an easier, quicker process with maybe arguably better results, but technically it is another example of AI taking someone's job.
From Los Angeles, California, this is the Monday Film Industry Brief with your host, Justin Phillip.
The hot topic of this week, which is FX5 leaked rumor here. It has the same 16-bit internal RAW of the 25K Burano. You know, this is coming in from a trusted source, apparently, according to Sony Alpha rumors. It's a 5K camera. The highest RAW bitrate, which they're saying is 965 bitrate, all the way up to full frame 5K 3x2 open gate. In a way, is a straight competition to both the FX6 and the FX3, and honestly the FX9, but the FX9 was already kind of behind those cameras technically. They're predicting that it's going to be around $5,500 for the FX5 and then like an additional $700 to $800 extra for the EVF. Some of you may have noticed, I have my Sony FX6 kit listed, but the FX6 has made me over 16 grand. At least 16 grand. It has under 300 hours. As of right now, it has under 300 hours. That's a pretty good rate on that camera. The reason why it's listed is because I'm just I want to be ripped away from the gear obsession. Because even on the conversation I had today, it's like, oh yeah, what cameras do you have? Just so I can tell them, you know, and it's like I get it. Like I understand why they need to know these things. And some jobs do have a certain amount of deliverables, requirements, I mean. But the reality is I don't want to be tied to the gear anymore, to the point where if the people want to hire me, it's because they want to hire me for me, what I can offer experience-wise, skill-wise. And if it gets into the topic of gear, well, then that's great. Yeah, let's figure out what we need. Let's rent the right tool that we need. That's the way that it should always be at a certain point of your career. Because otherwise, you just end up in a rat race of chasing the gear to appease some client that only wants to hire you because of your gear. When I want people to think of me, I want them to think of me in the products that I delivered, not in what does he have in his van. That's why I have stuff for sale. It's not like, oh my God, he's completely leaving the industry. You know, no, it's just the reality of it is I'm just like kind of like closing a certain door on it. This FX5, you're not going to see me do an unboxing of this thing. We're just talking about it because it is the most current hot camera and maybe people are interested in it. I still find camera releases interesting, but that doesn't mean that I can't wait to get it and shoot with it. All of the cameras in my hand are going to do the same thing that I can do with it because it's in my hand. The camera is not going to magically change what I'm capable of. That's kind of why I did the ZR video the way I did it. And I didn't even plan that. Again, it was just a fan of the show. There was no high stakes on it. It was just a guy messing with this camera for the first time in real reality as it's unfolding before your eyes. The live production keeps borrowing cinema tools. Eurovision 2026 shot on 24 ARRI Alexa 35 live cameras. Holy shit, I bet you Blackmagic are so bummed out about this. Eurovision was all shot on ARRI. That's insane. High-end live events increasingly want cinematic images, creating opportunities beyond the scripted features. If scripted production stays inconsistent, concerts and live events may become the next home for cinematographers. Oh man, I hate to hear that, but you know, it is kind of true. Look at this setup, bro. This is insane. Look at this. The Eurovision is flexing with this. For a long time, Blackmagic was kind of low-key the standard for live events. I was a gimbal op on quite a handful of live events here in LA, random different things, kind of doing some sort of operating on live events. And those were almost always Blackmagic cameras. You know, Blackmagic has all the mixers and stuff to do the live events, live streaming and everything. They're probably super bummed out about this, I would imagine. But this is flex mode here. All right, let's check this out right here. AI conversations are shifting toward pre-production. CineVision, an interactive pre-visualization storyboard system for directors, cinematographer collaborations. Human-computer interaction. Effective communication between directors and cinematographers is fundamental in film production. And this is what I hinted on last week or the week before about Martin Scorsese was on social media talking about how he uses AI for storyboard creation. Here we go. Let's see. Martin Scorsese, Black Forest Labs, AI storyboarding with Flux.
There's always been that problem of like what you see in here, how do you get it there? How do you get it on a set? How do you get it through, even on a soundstage? How do you get it? How do you create what you have in your thought, in your mind's eyes, almost like a painter? How does he or she get that from here onto the canvas?
It was a single tracking shot.
Yeah.
It was the most complicated shot I'd ever seen. I was there.
Now they're talking about literally one of the most iconic and influential shots in all of cinema history is the Goodfellas scene where he it starts outside and they follow him in through the club, all the way through the club and all the way to, through the kitchen and all the way to the back end of it.
Maybe 10 or 12 moments in that sequence that are little vignettes. And how we got from vignette to vignette, it had to be worked out physically.
Well, this was huge. This was a ginormous one take. And, the amount of choreography that would have to go into this is just mind-blowing. This is 1990. There's no AI background. All of these background actors, all of the forefront actors, this is huge. The amount of actors, the amount of production, I can't imagine how much they had to rehearse this. This guy carrying the crate, right? If he misses his mark, it's all fucked. Every single one of these players, background and foreground, they cannot miss their shot, their moment. So that's what he's referring to here in this. Look, I get it. I can see the good and bad of it. Obviously, the argument here is like, they're saying this is making things easier for the collab between director and DP, but you're taking away the job of the storyboard artists. Certainly in 1990, Scorsese knows that when they did Goodfellas, he didn't have a computer to just bring up this previs for him. He had to sit down with real storyboard artists, real people. Now he's saying he can create these things as he's coming up with them on the fly, but he's creating these storyboards in real time. He's creating a moving schematic, basically. Look, I can understand why you would be into it. It's essentially an easier, quicker process with maybe arguably better results. I mean, that's TBD, obviously, but, so it makes sense why you're going to lean into this, and it makes sense for, faster moving productions. Certainly is going to make sense for a lot of lower end productions. But technically it is another example of AI taking someone's job. That's the reality of it. This Monday film industry brief was pulled from my much longer Patreon discussion where we covered about 3 times as many stories, along with the freelance and production stuff I don't usually share here on YouTube. If you want the full hour-long conversation, you can find it over on my Patreon. As always, guys, thank you for the support, and we'll see you in the next one.